Recently, it was widely reported that Kathleen Kennedy has been in discussions to step down as head of Lucasfilm, presumably when her contract expires at the end of 2025, and that the official announcement from Lucasfilm would come in the next few months to a year. After a few days of this news making the rounds, Kennedy herself decided to do an interview to address this report, and unsurprisingly, her comments have caused some confusion. But for those who are unfamiliar with the way she likes to play word games, it's clear what the actual truth of the matter is. So this interview was an exclusive by Deadline. Kathleen Kennedy speaks on her Lucasfilm plans. She is not soon retiring, and the films that will keep her in Star Wars orbit for years to come. This is an exclusive interview. So Kathleen Kennedy called up Deadline to get her side of the story out. It's interesting now that she decides to respond, because she's never responded before. These rumors have been around for a while, but now that the trades were talking about it, because it was from a legitimate source, now she's addressing it. So that actually lends itself to more credibility. So let's see how this article starts out. This is an article written by Mike Fleming Jr. I thought I'd seen it all in trade journalism, but the piranha-like frenzy on Kathleen Kennedy and the successor speculation that followed Matt Belloni's Puck report that Disney was putting her out to pasture is a new one on me. So first of all, I have a problem with this statement because that's not what the report said. It did not say that Disney was putting her out to pasture or saying that they were pushing her out. It was merely saying that she was retiring at the end of the year when her current contract expired. So he's definitely painting a narrative that we're going to sympathize with Kathleen Kennedy in this situation, because that's not happening, because that's not what the report said. There was no added exposition or trying to paint a narrative. That was just what he heard. Belloni, for years, has been beating on Kennedy like she owes him money, and this week he reported Kennedy was retiring. Matt Belloni, I think he worked at The Hollywood Reporter at one point, and now he's branched out into his own media reporting, so that's what the Puck site was from, and that's where the report was. And apparently, this guy doesn't like him that much. Let's continue. Belloni for years has been beating on Kennedy like she owes him money, and this week he reported Kennedy was retiring. I recall he essentially did the same thing more than a year ago, and yet here she still is producing the Mandalorian movie and prepping the Sean Levy-directed Star Wars film that Ryan Gosling is circling, as well as numerous other film and streaming projects with A-list participants. Just because she's producing things now, that also doesn't refute that she's going to retire later this year. And I don't know if this dude is even aware, Lucasfilm announces a new film all the time. That's all that they know how to do. At this point, many people would just wish they would stop making announcements and just make the movies. Let your actions speak for themselves. He continues, still, the trades followed with gusto, dishing speculative reporting on who might succeed Kennedy. The takeaway was chaos, and that Kennedy was being pushed. The reality is different and far more orderly. The trades picked it up because it was from a legitimate source. Otherwise, they wouldn't. Speculation like this has gone around before, but again, because of the credibility of where it was coming from, and I'm sure a lot of these other people like Jeff Snyder also heard the same things to back that up. So we have like two people who have an established background of credible insider information reporting the same thing. And it wasn't that she was being pushed out. There was never that narrative. There was none of that. Obviously, there's no chance of this interview being unbiased. And you can tell by the way he's trying to paint the narrative here. There's a lot in this interview, but for now, I'm just going to talk about what she actually says specifically in reference to her retirement status and the future of Lucasfilm. So I'm just going to cover those comments for now. So Mike at Deadline asks, we've read all these speculative reports that you are out, that there's a frenzy for the next person who's going to take over Lucasfilm. What is the truth? And I just want to point out that the person who revealed this did not say that there was a frenzy, but this is what Kathleen Kennedy said in response. The truth is, and I want to just say loud and clear, I am not retiring. I will never retire from movies. I will die making movies. That is the first thing that's important to say. I am not retiring. What's happening at Lucasfilm is I have been talking for quite some time with both Bob and Alan about what eventual succession might look like. We have an amazing bunch of people here, and we have every intention of making an announcement months or a year down the road. We are in lockstep as to what that's going to be, and I am continuing. I'm producing the Mandalorian movie right now, and I'm also producing Sean Levy's movie, which is after that. So I'm continuing to stay at Lucasfilm and looking very thoughtfully with Bob and Alan as to who's stepping in. So that is all underway, and we have every right to make that announcement when we want to make it. She sounds a bit snippy there at the end. I think it's hilarious that we have this word salad when she can't just plainly state, are you retiring as head of Lucasfilm at the end of the year or not? Yes or no? She prefaces her answer by saying, I just want to say loud and clear. She's not retiring from movies. She's not retiring from the industry. But that's not what was in question. I fully believe, of course, even if she were to step down as head of Lucasfilm, I could definitely see her maintaining some sort of position within the company or Disney or wherever. But this is not about that. This is about your being head of Lucasfilm. That is what the report stated. And she can't even say it. She can't even say, are you retiring as head of Lucasfilm at the end of the year? Yes or no? And all that she says is, I will never retire from movies. So I'm sorry, that's not really an answer to the actual question, but it actually confirms the report. She just has to word it in a way that makes her look better, I guess, because she confirms that they are planning her eventual succession. She says they've been talking about it for quite some time. And she says we have every intention of making an announcement months. It could be months from now they're going to make an announcement. They could make an announcement at Star Wars Celebration if they wanted to, and that would still prove her statement true here. This is how she likes to talk. She never gives straightforward answers. It's obvious to me that she just really didn't like the narrative that was being painted by the trades that were talking about this report and that were speculating about who her successor would be. She didn't like that. So she immediately got on the phone with Mike at Deadline. Obviously, she had some stipulations and conditions for such interview, which were to paint her in a more positive light, and especially in her tenure of Lucasfilm. So at the end, there's another question that Deadline asks that is specifically in reference to her retirement status as head of Lucasfilm. The second to last question, Deadline, 2 final questions. Will you step out as Lucasfilm boss this year? Kennedy's response, we really don't know at this stage. There's so much going on, Mike. I don't know. What was that word salad about then from before? You literally just said at the start of this interview that you have a plan. You've had a plan for your eventual retirement. For at least a couple of years, y'all have been discussing it, that you know what it's going to look like. You said it loud and clear. You're not retiring from movies. But when he asks you specifically, okay, are you retiring though as Lucasfilm boss this year? No straight answer. We went from, let me be loud and clear about this. There is no chaos, to I don't know. This is what's so frustrating about listening to Kathleen Kennedy, is what's been so frustrating as a Star Wars fan to have to listen to her speak about Star Wars, because this is the norm of how she speaks. A lot of double speak and a lot of being just disingenuous. That's what this article is even for. You wanted to make a response to clarify your future, and all that you did was actually confirm what those other sources were saying. You just didn't like the fact that maybe some people got the impression that you were being pushed out. But from the source itself, it was just stating, yeah, she's going to retire at the end of the year when her contract expires. And all the other trades just happened to also mention, yeah, she's had a pretty rough time of it as head of Lucasfilm. And I really think she had a problem with that. Trying to save face after her abysmal record. That is all that this article is. So her clarification was just to confirm that they are looking for her successor and that they've been looking for a couple of years. And that's what the other half of this article is about. It's clarifying her retirement status or whatever. And the other half of it is talking about the projects that she has going right now. But even that is embarrassing. She wants to brag about the fact that now Sean Levy wants to do a Star Wars movie, and now the Mando movie is coming out. She wants to brag about those things when she's had numerous films announced, so many directors kicked out of their movies, so many writers replaced for creative differences, acclaimed writers that have given you scripts for movies that you've tossed in the trash and said, no, start over. And they've had to move on to other projects because of that. And honestly, it makes me question her entire career as a producer, because as head of Lucasfilm, given your background, it is your job to assemble creative teams, to assemble the best people, and to facilitate their needs and their creative space so they can create something amazing. You're supposed to foster creativity. And you've done nothing but burn down bridges with so many acclaimed directors and writers. So Deadline asks that you are looking within seems to give credence to what we've heard, that an exec like Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni is in a good position as he works on a Star Wars to write and direct. I think it's funny, though, that the guy who flamed Matt Filoni for issuing this report is now citing that report or the conversation around it that it sparked, because it says, we've heard that you're looking within and that Dave Filoni is in a good position. So he's even citing this prior source that you just flamed. Hilarious. So Kennedy's response, I can't say who it is because there's just an internal process that goes on inside a large corporation and a publicly held company as to how we go about making deals, finalizing decisions, and making announcements. There's nothing unusual about that, and we're in that process. So she can't say who it is that they're looking at. This flurry of press coverage, it sounds like chaos. What's the reality? Kennedy, chaos? There has never been any chaos because we know exactly what the plan is, and we've been talking about it, as I said, nonstop for the last couple of years, because for obvious reasons, I'm not going to be here forever. George asked me 13 years ago to step in, and now I'm looking at who's going to replace me. And as I said, we have a bench of people internally to handle the business, the creative side. The job has grown also since I stepped in. There was no streaming. There weren't a lot of the things that we're involved in right now going on. So it has grown. This just confirms everything that was reported. It's funny because she also said they've been talking about it non-stop for the last couple of years because she's not going to be here forever. She's confirming the plan. She's also confirming maybe prior rumors about her stepping down because these conversations were going on for years now. They've been talking about who's going to be next, who's going to succeed her. This is just insane to me that she just had to come out with this full sit-down interview and basically saying nothing but confirming those prior reports. It just seems that she only had an issue with the conversation that those rumors sparked, which is maybe that in view of the fact that she's had numerous high-profile failures under Lucasfilm, who can even handle such a job coming in to Lucasfilm at this time? It seems that she just really had a problem with that. So this is her bid to try to paint herself in a better light for any future achievement awards that may be down the line for her. And it's funny, she says there's no chaos because we know exactly what the plan is. Meanwhile, we're going to end the interview by saying, we really don't know if I'm going to step out as Lucasfilm boss this year. This is what it's felt like to be a Star Wars fan listening to this for 13 years. No straightforward answers, lots of doublespeak. It's really frustrating. And what's really kind of sad and heartbreaking about all this is that it's all about her. It's not about the fans. It's not about Star Wars itself. The way she's handled it is just so sterile and so corporate. There is no love for Star Wars in how she's handled this. This is a product, plain and simple. She's not a fan of Star Wars herself. She's stated that. She was asked point blank, are you a fan of Star Wars? And she's basically just said, well, I'm a fan of movies and I'm a fan of what George accomplished. Yeah, so in other words, no, she's not. If you can't say it, you're not a fan. How she speaks about Star Wars, how she talks about new projects, this is just soulless corporatism in its treatment of this beloved universe. But I'm curious to know what you think of this interview with Kathleen Kennedy. Does this seem like a poor attempt to spin and sugarcoat her leaked retirement plans? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more sci-fi and fantasy news, theories, and lore. And if you're looking for ways to support the channel, you can leave a super thanks or join as a YouTube member for early access to new videos and other perks. You can also check out my Patreon page for exclusive content. Thank you all so much for your support. And as always, have a very nerdy day.